Hey friends, today we're going to be reading a story called The Show Must Go On. And in this story, we're going to be really paying attention to what lesson our characters learn. And that lesson is called the theme. So sometimes when we're reading, the author's trying to show us how our characters sometimes encounter problems. And from the way that they handle that problem or that conflict, it can teach us a lesson that we can use in our own life. And again, the lesson, sometimes it's called the moral of the story or the theme of the story. So again, the name of our story is The Show Must Go On. And like we always do as we start reading, I want you to be thinking about, does this sound like a fiction story or does it sound like a nonfiction text? So we'll go ahead and get started. The show must go on. Nisha had worked so hard getting ready for the school musical. She had been a singer in the chorus in 3 musicals since she started elementary school, and she fell in love with singing and acting. After her first musical, she had asked her grandparents to give her money for voice lessons every year for special holidays. She practiced for hours so she could try out for the spring musical, The Sound of Music. She had watched the movie so often that she knew the words to all the songs by heart, so she only had to work on getting the hard notes. So pausing here for a second, does this sound like a nonfiction text that's going to teach us about a topic, or does this sound like a story with characters, with a setting and a plot and a theme? So hopefully you're thinking this sounds like a story, so we can mark an F for fiction. This is a fiction story, so we're going to keep that in mind as we're reading. On casting day, Nisha was thrilled to see her name posted for the leading part. Practices for the show were fun. She learned about having an understudy, a person who can step in if a performer can't do the show. Nisha thought this was a great idea, but of course her understudy would never be needed. She wouldn't miss the show for anything in the world. And besides, her understudy, a new girl named Allie, was so quiet that Nisha couldn't imagine her doing the role of Maria. The day of the show, Nisha woke up excited. As she sat up in bed, she felt a little dizzy. She was so hot, but she was shivering too, and her head ached. "Mom," she croaked, her mouth dry. "I don't feel so good." Her mother took one look at Nisha and went to get the thermometer. Nisha had a very high fever. "Nisha, I'm sorry, but I think you may have the flu," her mother told her gently. "No," Nisha cried, "I'm fine. Miss Barkley likes to say, the show must go on, and I can do it. I know I can." Her mother patted her on the back and called the doctor's office. The doctor had the final word. "Nisha, you have the flu," she said. "I'm so sorry, but there is no way you can perform tonight. It wouldn't be fair to go around other people and make them sick. Besides, I promise that you're not going to feel like performing tonight." Nisha cried all the way home and then cried herself to sleep. When she woke up, her tears turned to anger. "It's not fair," she nearly shouted at her parents. "I worked so hard for this. This is the worst thing in the whole world." At the time the play was due to start, Nisha slammed the door to her room and began weeping all over again. The next morning, her best friend Katie called. "I'm really sorry you couldn't do the musical," she told her. "Everyone missed you and was so sad you were not there." Nisha sighed. "Thanks, but I'm sure everything was just fine without me," she said. "Allie did a good job," Katie began, but Nisha interrupted her. "It's not fair that she got to do my part," she said angrily. "Not fair at all." Katie was quiet for a minute or two. "Well, I was going to say that she didn't do nearly as well as you would have," she told Nisha. "But you know, I think Allie probably has you beat for the worst thing in the world. She told me a secret at recess yesterday, Nisha, and I'm going to tell you so you'll quit being angry. Allie's father got a new job and her family has to move at the end of June. Allie is sad about leaving her school and her friends," Katie continued. "She was really sorry that you got the flu and asked me to tell you so. But I think that getting to do the performance last night really made her happy." Nisha's anger began to melt away. It did miss to hurt the performance, but Katie made her see that she had been very upset since yesterday. Thanks for telling me, she said. I'm really sorry about Allie's family having to move. Since I won't be back to school on Monday, will you thank her for filling in for me? When she hung up the phone, Nisha looked at her comfortable bed and was thankful. There were plenty of musicals in the world, and she had plenty of time to perform in them. Now, in just a second, we're going to turn the page and take a look at the questions that go along with this story.